legit.
MMA Buzz.
Hello and welcome to MMA Buzz, the East Coast MMA chat where three friends catch a buzz over some beers and talk about MMA, upcoming cards, and industry news. We're coming to you pre-recorded from our Fredericton, New Brunswick studio. I am Rodney Mann, that's Rodney Mann on Instagram. Joining me today we have...
This is Trevor Grever Lutz, known as Grever on Instagram.
Rounding out the panel, we've got...
Nick Brown, NHBrown44 on Instagram.
We've got a lot to talk to you about today. We're going to be talking about UFC on Fox 18 happening out of Newark, New Jersey last night. Also, we're going to go over Bellator 148. That happened Friday night. And we're also going to go over briefly the 1FC events that happened the last 2 weeks. 1FC 37, Dynasty of Champions, and 1FC 38, which just happened this past Friday night as well. Of course, we're going to bring you our full bladder splatter and our half-cut uppercut for the weekend in review. And, of course, if you're unfamiliar with the show... We always start off by talking about what we're drinking, since this is also a podcast about craft local brews. So I'll start off. I am drinking a Pump House India Pale Ale. It's a 6.5 coming to us out of Moncton, New Brunswick, just down the street from us. And when I say down the street, I mean 2 hours down the Trans-Canada Highway. Gotta say, it's pretty delicious. I've, come to think of myself as a enjoyer of India Pale Ales, and this guy is actually pretty delicious. So... what do you have, Grav?
Alright, so I got the new Maybe Brew Company that's based out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, which is where we're located. It's a 7%, and it's quite delicious. I tried it last night during the fights, and that's the reason I bought it tonight.
Nick, what are you drinking?
I'm also drinking a Maybe Workhorse IPA. Third or fourth one I've had now, so I guess I clearly enjoy them.
Yeah, I had one the other day. It was pretty good.
The bottle looks cool too.
Yeah, the artwork's really nice, very vectorized. They just started canning last weekend, so they just started getting listed in New Brunswick alcohol stores. So if you are living in New Brunswick, you should put in a request to get some maybes, because they're pretty damn good. This is episode 6 of MMA Buzz. We're about to kick it off. Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Yummy. Alright, let's jump right into it. UFC on Fox 18, Newark, New Jersey. We saw some pretty good fights top to bottom on the card, capped off with, of course, Johnson versus Bader. I think that fight pretty much went the way I saw it going. Johnson improves to 21-5, Bader dropping to 20-5. Very similar records, really. Kind of strange when you consider the impact Johnson's had in his career versus Bader's impact. Yeah, let's just talk about this fight. I mean, whatever fight there was to talk about, really it was Bader trying to go in for that takedown, and of course Johnson, having a very good wrestling defense, was able to stuff the takedown and clearly outworked Bader on the ground. I mean, Bader had wrist control for a little while, and Johnson got his wrist loose, took his back, and grounded, pound him unconscious.
Oh yeah.
What's there to say about this fight? I mean,
right to the temple. And rewatching it, I noticed that the heaviest shot was actually an uppercut that he had put underneath the shoulder that actually landed right on the jaw, and that's the one that slept him.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I noticed right away is how scared Bader looked. He kind of looked terrified, which is... I don't blame him. Anthony Johnson's a beast, and he hits so hard. So that's what I took from that fight also, on top of, a really greasy KO.
Yeah, Nick.
Clearly, you guys are both aware how much of a Johnson fan I am, so
Oh, yes.
glad it went the way it did. And a 5-fight win streak for Bader. And he looked great doing it. He looked like he looked leading up to the Cormier fight when he was just destroying everybody in that division. So...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Johnson's really laid back. Definitely able to deal with the pressure very well. Bader, I think this is his second time headlining an event for UFC. So maybe his third, but I'm pretty sure it's his second. So, maybe nerves got to him or something. But, Bader's wheelhouse is wrestling. So kind of made sense that he was going to go for him. Everybody knows if you can withstand the first couple minutes with Johnson, get him tired, maybe you get a better chance of winning. And I think that was probably what Bader was thinking. But I think he forgot that they were dry, he was fresh, and he's got real power in the beginning of those rounds,
Yeah, it seemed like kind of a lazy shot for somebody that's so good at the wrestling. Like, it just seems so early to do that, like you mentioned, being dry, and it's no wrist control. Everything kind of is just much easier to hold at that point.
Yeah, I just hope it's another step towards a fight with
shot.
John Jones.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way it could go.
Title shot or not, I just want to see him fight Jones.
Yeah.
It depends if Jones has the title after he fights Cormier, but...
That's true, man. That'd be a great number one contender fight.
Title shot or not, I want to see Johnson Jones. Like I was, eagerly waiting for, and
I was on the cusp.
So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's a fight that'll happen. It just kind of, like you say, it depends who wins the next fight between Cormier and Jones, because obviously, you could get into rematch territory depending on how each man shows up. And personally, I see Jones taking it from Cormier. So
yeah,
and of course, since Cormier's already beat Johnson, if you look at it that way. Cormier deserves it for MMA math, exactly. Yeah, it could go a couple ways, but I think ultimately we will see Jones versus Johnson.
I would like to see. I was thinking about this earlier, that I knew that Johnson had fought at heavyweight once against Arlovsky, and I'd actually like to see him branch into heavyweight at some point in the UFC.
Yeah.
Maybe if this title shot thing doesn't go through.
True.
Maybe if he does fight for the title and it kind of doesn't go his way, maybe he'll step up and go up to heavyweight, because he can. Like, he's a big fella, so.
Yeah, I mean, the same could be said for Bader now that he hasn't had such luck at light heavyweight, right?
Yeah. Or he could even cut down, because he's got such muscle mass. Maybe he could...
yeah, that's true.
Bader did have 5 wins before that fight.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah. I'm not saying vacate it right away. Don't run with his tail between his legs. But we were discussing it. I mean, you look at the 10 knockouts now for Johnson, 2 away from the title. Currently tied with Chuck Liddell for 3rd place for most knockouts in UFC history. That's some, like we're saying, like we could be looking at a future Hall of Famer. Like, this guy is just getting into his prime. He's got a lot of hopefully a lot of fights ahead of him, especially if he wins the title and defends. And you look at Bader, just doesn't have the same splash in the division. And sure, he's got 5 wins in a row, but even if he won this, he would have had to have won in very impressive fashion to even be in the title mix talk. Yeah, I mean, it sucks for him because he has looked great. He's made some great improvements coming, in the last 2 years, and I hate to shit on a guy, but it's just like, as far as the cachet and the public eye, Johnson, even on a loss, probably had a better chance than Bader going forward.
Yeah.
You can't just win. You gotta look good doing it.
And Johnson looked good doing it. So
fantastic. Didn't even break a sweat. That's the thing. Didn't even look sweaty.
Yeah.
Well, in the background, you see Bader face first, looking like he's sleeping.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
oh man. And he was talking. Yeah. Oh, wait. I was thinking about the Ryan Couture fight. We'll get to that. But yeah, let's, speaking of moving to heavyweight, let's move to heavyweight, because in the co-main event, we had Ben Rothwell versus Josh Barnett. Of course, Ben Rothwell... They really pouring it on of late, trying to build his his character in the UFC. Just adds to it again.
Lovable guy.
Very lovable guy. Well, both those guys are so great, Ben and Josh. And yeah, I mean, looking at the fight, Rothwell coming out with a very unorthodox stance, like he always does, just like waiting to get his hands on him.
Monster coming towards you.
Yeah, and I mean, both those guys, as soon as they get their hands on you, Josh Barnett, of course, with a crazy wrestling background and catch wrestling and submission wrestling. Ben Rothwell just coming off of that Darce choke victory. And it kind of looked like he was about to win with another Darce choke. They end up calling it a guillotine choke, and when you watch it again, it does cinch in like sort of a guillotine.
More under the neck.
Yeah. So, of course, Rothwell with this win has to be in the mix for like a title contender shot at least. I'm not calling for a title match right away, but he is... he's looked impressive. There's no taking that away from him. What do you guys think?
Well, it's a 4-fight win streak at heavyweight. Like, that's basically unheard of. Yeah. With that kind of KO power everybody has... Mm-hmm. And it's the biggest win streak he's had in a long time since being in the UFC. I believe he's going to fight Stipe, which was a match that was actually supposed to happen, and he's been really adamant on getting that fight to happen.
Poor
So I
Stipe.
see that. Yeah, Stipe.
Yeah.
Well, Stipe bowed at the last fight, so let's see. We should
Yep.
see it now.
Yeah, it would be a good fight. And speaking of all these guys having the power to knock people out, that's his second win in a row by submission
Yeah.
for heavyweight. So
Looked painful too. Like he
it
just
did.
reefing on his neck. Like,
Yeah, that was the first time Josh Barnett ever tapped to submission. So I mean, that's
ever, yeah.
That just goes to show you how strong Ben Rothwell is and how much he can. As soon as he gets his hands on you, he can just turn the fight into a submission game real quick.
Yeah, it just shows that sometimes grit and power can go over technique in a way.
Yeah,
Even if
just
you
like
have
that
the
one fight.
credentials.
Which we'll talk about later
Yeah.
as well. lots of little mid spoilers here.
Crazy
but
KOs.
I mean, I'd be remiss to talking about Ben Rothwell and Josh Barnett without mentioning the open workouts with Josh Barnett with the whole pro wrestling, spat where they were doing the hitting gloves. Josh Barnett's hitting gloves with his coach, and then all of a sudden a masked intruder comes in. This is not the bed intruder, but it is a masked intruder, and he comes in and they slapped each other around, had a really funny like suplex moment, and like the slaps on the chest and the whole bit. If you haven't seen it yet, search Josh Barnett open workouts UFC on Fox 18. It's worth the tune in. He was definitely interesting to watch, and I don't think Josh Barnett loses any points in this fight. I mean, he really peppered Ben Rothwell with a lot of jabs and, cut him open, had him swelling. But like you say, Ben Rothwell, just a gritty, strong man, big man.
Yep. There's a quote he said basically, he doesn't just want the belt, he just wants to dispose of everybody in the heavyweight division. So, it's something like that.
Did he do
Not quote the quote, but it's, yeah.
So badass. Yeah,
Mic
lots of
drop.
promise in Ben Rothwell. So, speaking of lots of promise, Sage Northcutt, the up-and-coming star from Dana White's famous Looking for a Fight new reality TV show that the UFC is putting out. Sage Northcutt fighting Brian Barberena. Of course, if you haven't seen this, you wouldn't be listening to this, so you already know. Sage Northcutt's lost the O.
Yep.
He dropped to getting submitted for the first time. What do you guys think about this fight?
He
You
looked
guys see that
lost
coming?
once
looked
it hit
lost.
the ground. He was trying to take the down, going for the takedown also, which I found kind of strange, but he must have just thought that was the way to Barberino to get him confused, honestly. For the stand-up would be better. Like, more openings would open up then.
For Sage.
Yes, like say if the takedown is in their head, like
Yeah. Maybe he had been working a lot on his ground game and he wanted to show it off and he got caught.
yeah, really badly. The Von Flue choke is supposed to be extremely painful, so it's happened very fast.
I feel like they've been putting too much hype behind Sage. I hate the hype train, so
What's the money issue for me?
I feel like they're throwing guys at him that he's supposed to beat. He's going into this fight 7-0. Brian Barberena's coming off of a loss and just made him look real bad. So I'm happy the hype train got stopped. I think Sage Northcutt is still going to be a great prospect. Another 3 or 4 years, he's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I don't think this loss does anything for him.
No,
He went up
it
the
doesn't
weight,
hurt him
too.
at all.
He actually went up the weight to 170, and I'd almost like him to stay there because he's got that huge muscle mass that maybe that's his actual weight class. I mean, he's younger, so he's going to fill out even more. So
Yeah, I think we're looking for big things in Sage Northcutt later on.
Yeah. And what about Brian Barberena? Is this a stepping stone for him?
Well, the people are going to remember him now for sure.
Definitely.
Really funny antic he did he looked like he was going to do the front flip like Sage, but he ended up just doing a barrel roll. No barrel roll.
Bill barrel roll.
So it's pretty funny.
I say he's coming in off a loss, but he had a 7-fight win streak before that loss.
Yeah.
I mean, not on the UFC, but you never know. I mean, he's got a great record. He looked good in that fight. He shows some promise too. So we'll see where he goes.
Yeah.
He gained 500 Twitter followers since yesterday.
Nice.
My Twitter just blew up there after the fight, like a minute after the fight.
Oh,
Nice.
damn.
Well, that's cool.
Telling me about all the people I follow that were now following Brian Barberena.
Crazy.
And when I looked at that number last night, and then I looked again this morning, he had like 450 more followers.
Crazy.
Holy shit.
Speaking of Twitter, MMA Buzz is on Twitter. Check us out at MMA Buzz Radio on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube.
Tweet us if you like us, you hate us, it's all good.
Yeah, we just want to hear what you think, because the only way we can make this better is if we get constructive feedback. So let's switch over from UFC, unless you guys want to talk about anything else that was on that card. I know you were pretty stoked on that Riviera fight.
Oh yeah, Jimmy's looked awesome in his fights in UFC. He's now 19-1. And it's funny, like, he's fighting guys that are much taller. Like, his opponent Yuri was 5'9". And he's fighting at 5'4", but his build is so huge and like stocky that it works.
I'd just like to mention as well, Yakovlev that fought in UFC. Yeah. I guess since we're moving into Bellator, Paul Daley's last loss was to Yakovlev. And I just noticed that this morning. I just thought that was kind of an interesting bit of information. Both those guys fought this weekend too. So
yeah, and his first fight in UFC was an early notice against Damian Maia, and he took him to decision. Damian took him to the decision, which is huge. First fight in UFC against Damian Maia, that's crazy. And that's his only loss in UFC also.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he had an awesome knockout this weekend. Awesome. It's a hook right. Didn't even actually have to hit him when he was on the ground. But
it was just a left that barely caught, and then that huge right hook.
Yeah, first round.
Nice.
It was greasy. I just said greasy a few times already. It was pretty bad.
Why is it so greasy? All right, so if that's it, let's move on to Bellator 148, live for free on Spike. All right, so I was sick Friday. I stayed home and I watched these fights all the way through, and holy shit. Like, it wasn't a tentpole event or anything. In fact, it was live for free on Spike, but it was really good for something that was live for free on Spike. If I hear live for free on Spike from those announcers one more time, that's like the new Corn Nuts for me. Brought to you by Corn Nuts, corn to the core. My God, it's like,
to the core.
Yeah, it's like, don't go anywhere. It's Bellator 148 live for free on Spike. Welcome back to Bellator 148 live for free on Spike. Next up, we got Paul Daley versus Andy Urich live for free on Spike. Like, oh my God. I get what they're doing. They're trying to get that repetition and get it in your head. So you're like, later on when you're talking with your friends, like, oh, you getting the UFC next week, the pay-per-view? Like, hell no, man. Bellator is live and for free on Spike. Why would I spend, and I get it. Man?
Free.
Probably on the Fram Cam.
Oh, no, the Fram Cam.
That rant aside, it was an amazing card, man. I thought it was pretty good. I mean, there was a few heavyweight bouts that were just kind of, but, they kept me entertained live for free on Spike. In the main event, we had Paul Daley versus Andy Urich. Paul Daley, definitely the favorite going into this fight. Andy Urich, definitely just there to fill space, filling in that main event card where Josh Koscheck hurt himself and couldn't make his Bellator debut, in his hometown. That really sucks. But Paul Daley reveled in the opportunity to really throw some shade his way. Daley comes out, totally embarrasses Urich, way faster, way more powerful, gets the KO in impressive fashion. Urich, nothing really much to take away from that fight for me, unfortunately for him. But, man, the show really capped off when Daley took the mic and just got that crotch check chant. He tried to get the crotch check. Check your crotch. No, seriously. It's important. If you've got lumps, you need to go to the doctor.
That's what those are.
Yeah, what did he end up saying? He's like, yeah, the Brits got to come through here. You got it written down.
Yeah. British boys came and did right, while hometown boy sat there with that big old fucking head looking like a Muppet.
Looking like a Muppet. Man,
yeah, I mean,
the best
really does.
I gotta say, Koscheck was not in there. He didn't really get his say, but all the camera showed him say was, well, I beat your ass last time.
Yes, that's
I couldn't
true.
say he beat his ass, but he laid on him and talked shit to him the whole time.
I think it'll be different next time.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. We'll see how it goes. But, definitely an exciting main event. The fact that, Daley is such a sass on the mic, I think, is really going to bring a lot more eyes to that card when it finally does happen, when that fight does happen.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That uppercut he had hit one was disgusting. Like
Pretty
it looked
brutal.
like in slow motion. It looks like he rips. His head's gonna go 180. It's awesome. In a very brutal way.
That's Daley's 28th KO.
Oh, he's definitely got one of the
38
highest
wins,
KOs.
28 KOs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's
super
up there with
impressive.
Melvin Manhoof for the KO ratio.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest mistake UFC made in the last couple of years is getting rid of Daley for that late punch.
Yep.
You
I
know,
wouldn't be surprised if
he's
they
a
get him
star.
at some point again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I probably would have thrown that punch too. So
Oh, dude.
To quote Daley, why'd you punch Koscheck after the bell? Because he's a dick.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Speaking of dicks, Chris Honeycutt loses his O against Paul Bradley. The standout wrestler gets his first loss after a very powerful beatdown by Paul Bradley in the first. I mean, these two met just last year. Paul Bradley and Chris Honeycutt ended up being a clash of heads, which led to a no contest. And yeah, I gotta say, Paul Bradley really brought the hurt to Chris Honeycutt. Both these men wrestlers, so I was expecting sort of a lay and pray the way I was kind of, not so much lay and pray, but I wasn't expecting anything too crazy on the ground. But yeah, Bradley coming out with jackhammer fists, just like...
That's a perfect description. I was going to say sledgehammer. Like, literally, like...
It's
like
an automatic sledgehammer.
I was going to say, yeah, it's insane how he was throwing his punches, but they were connecting hard.
Yeah, he had great accuracy with those punches, especially when they were falling even. And like he almost had a chance to get back to his feet, but then he face planted him so bad.
And then just started freaking out. Like,
Yeah, get booed by the crowd so loud.
Yeah.
What
Poor
the
guy.
fuck are you booing for? I just kicked his ass. He looked fucking good doing it. No, wait, I'm thinking of Ally Clinton. No, I'm giving him his accent. He was more
Yeah.
like a Southern boy.
Yeah.
It only lasted 40 seconds, but it was a crazy 40 seconds.
Yeah,
yeah.
man. I just didn't see it happening that fast. Like I was all ready, man. I got some snacks on the commercial break. You know, I had to hurry back since it was live for free on Spike. And once I got back after the commercial, it was just, you know, it was faster than I anticipated. That's for damn sure.
Speaking of this Bellator event, Nick and I were actually at a metal show on Friday night, so we missed it live, free on Spike. But Rodney was sending me messages almost all night, like, "Dude, did you just see that?" Then it was like 5 minutes, like 5-10 minutes later, "Holy shit! You should have seen that." I was like, "Oh man, we're missing something." So I was at the bar with Nick, and we were looking up results and looking at like gifs as much as we could.
There were so many early finishes in that event that going and watching it the next day, like they're filling so much time in between fights, and they still had to re-show a prelim fight before the main event.
Yeah, it was wild. This is my play-by-play for that fight, in case you were wondering. KO, fall, almost recover, another lander, then a sprawl while dazed. Then Bradley lands another shot on Honeycutt, then another shot, face plant, belly flop, ref steps in. So yeah, if you haven't watched the fight, check it out.
I barely even had to watch it because that was a perfect description.
Yeah, it was good. So yeah, I mean, another impressive knockout. Just going down the card, we had Patricky Friere, really bringing the hurt to Ryan Couture. Patricky, a little bit, touch and go. Sometimes he impresses, sometimes he really fails when it matters the most. But holy shit, he improves to 15-7. Just folded Couture. Ryan Couture coming out, looking better than ever on his feet, honestly. Like, got a few good jabs in and didn't so much stumble him, but sent him back, Patricky Friere. Patricky also landing a few kicks and stumbling, a few falls, but yeah, Ryan should have stuck to his wrestling because he's just fodder for another Patricky Friere highlight KO, for the KO reel. That was just have a seat, and there you go.
Yep, this is my favorite KO of 2016 at the moment.
Yeah,
and it looked like a video game. I've been playing a lot of UFC, EA, and it would literally look like a KO from that game, like the blood splatter smear with his face running down. It's like, it sounds disgusting talking about it, but
apparently he had been talking before the fight about how he needed that big one-punch highlight KO for his Bellator highlight reel, and yeah, he got it.
Boy got it, yeah.
yeah,
I'd say. Yeah, Ryan Couture,
hopefully he's awake.
Yeah,
Quote.
he was. That was one of what the ref was saying. Ryan, come back to me. Open your
Come
eyes,
back to me,
bud.
baby.
Yeah,
Yeah.
open your eyes, Ryan. Holy shit! Talk about a
Scary.
intense moment. Yeah, and Petrucci walked over to check on him. It was definitely a good moment of sportsmanship. They wouldn't let him close to him, but you could tell he was concerned.
Yeah, he looked really concerned.
Yeah, and a couple other really good fights down that card, but that one definitely stands out for me.
I missed this. During watching these fights later on, I noticed a gigantic blood splatter on the mat. I'm like, what fight is that? Like, I guess it was shown later on, but I haven't yet to watch it. But I still need to view that fight.
Yeah, that was a bloodbath. I can't quite place who it was, but
It was, I think Ayava or Ravaya, something like that. The guy who took the elbow to the nose.
oh yes, yeah, in the prelims, yeah,
And it just absolutely crushed his nose.
yeah. Oh my
And,
god.
and the commentators were like, "Oh, he's cut," and I was just like, "He just destroyed his nose. Why are you just saying he's cut?"
He got rid of his limb.
Yeah, it's almost as unhelpful of Ben Roth. There is swelling and blood coming from Ben Rothwell. It's like, well, where is it coming from? I'm concerned for his health overall. If it's just a thing that's spewing,
It is squirting.
yeah. But I mean, it's always good to get those two I guess UFC and Bellator back to back on 2 different nights, so you don't have to choose, and you really get to compare the two back to back, and you see there's a lot more importance on the speaking game, with Conor coming out and a lot of people like trying to get their bits for promoting stakes. I feel like Bellator's fighters are like, being conditioned to really speak out and go for that sound bite, and not saying that they're telling fighters how to fight, but you maybe get the sense that there might be being some coaching going on in the background where Couture didn't even go for any of his wrestling. He was trying to stand and bang, or maybe saying like, "Let's go for that KO. Let's try to finish this on the feet. Let's try to get highlight real things so we can promote better." I don't know if that's the truth. It just seems like there's more Bellator folks when they actually get the mic that turn it into a soundbite competition more so than UFC or even one.
Yeah, they were affiliated with TNA there for a while, so they have that connection, kind of the pro wrestling.
Yeah,
and it. I don't know. I actually kind of dig it. I like the whole promoting. You get to kind of see their personality in a way, even though sometimes it's kind of faked. But hey, it's kind of fun though.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Rothwell; he's doing it in the UFC, and Connor, and all these people. So,
Fuck.
not saying it's wrong. It
Rothwell's,
just seems to be happening more in Bellator.
Rothwell's personality.
Yeah. Well, especially with the Daley thing, just like calling him a Muppet. Like, obviously, he's trying to get in his head, but he could do that anytime.
He used to say he was from Easter Island. He would say that to
because of his head.
Yeah.
Did they? Were they on a time delay? Did they bleep out Daley saying "fuck"?
Yeah, they bleeped him out. Yeah, because I couldn't tell what he was saying there, so it was good that you had it written down. Muppet head looking motherfucker or something.
It's great sometimes
Big
you
old
catch
fucking
that.
head,
You catch
but,
it.
yeah.
You catch it before they beep it out. It's great. Kind of like the time we actually caught Nate Diaz freaking out after the Michael Johnson
Yes.
fight.
Yeah. That was awesome. Live for free on Fox.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So if there's nothing else to talk about on that card, let's move on to 1FC. This is our first time really digging into some 1FC stuff. Like I say, we've always wanted to cover as much MMA as possible, and there is other leagues. There's RFA. There's all kinds of new promotions coming up on Fight Pass. I mean, Legacy's been around. All these guys are getting a lot more. Well, it's a lot easier to watch these fights. I mean, none of us have. All of us try our hardest to catch as many fights as we can, but with more people being interested, I find that there's more viewing opportunities, So 1FC, being available makes it a whole lot easier for us. And shout out, speaking of 1FC, to Brennan Vera, who keeps on liking our podcast. Thanks for listening, Brennan. If you're hearing this, it means a lot that you are a fan. And actually, we take a moment to thank all of our fans for tuning in.
Yes. Thank
we
you
really
very much.
appreciate the feedback and the love.
It's only just going to get better.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're still in baby mode here as far as views are concerned, but we can tell the people who are listening are truly enjoying it, so we just want to make it as best as we can for you. So yeah, let's jump in. 1FC 37 Dynasty of Champions. This wasn't this weekend's event, it was last weekend's event, but we hadn't done a story about it at that point. We were running out of time. So yeah, I just want to mention how exciting it is to see the KOs by a soccer kick, where they're just not acceptable anywhere else. I think that 1FC's superior rule set, as they have coined it, is actually, superior in some ways.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It brings me back to Pride.
Yes, I'm wearing my Pride shirt right now. You can't see me, but
I'm extremely jealous of it.
You can't see him, but he's holding it out, just in case you could.
Yeah. In case somehow you're outside my window looking in right now, you'll see I'm wearing my Pride shirt. But Ziwu over Zhang Yuliang. That was last week's soccer kick. And then, of course, this week, several other soccer kicks. You have the list of decisions here for, or not decisions, but the way the fights went for 1FC 38. You want to see a high-paced, quick turnover fights. 1FC is the one to go. Nick, you got it handy? Here we go.
Right, I'm not going to go through all the names because I can't pronounce half of them, but starting from the first fight, going to the main event, here's just the list of how the fights ended. Submission by triangle choke in the second. TKO by punches in the first. Submission by rear naked choke in the second. Submission by Kimura in the first. TKO in the first. Submission by Katagatame in the second, which kind of looked like an arm in triangle when we looked it up.
Yeah.
KO by punch and a crazy soccer kick.
Insane soccer kick.
Yeah.
TKO by punches and elbows in the first. A decision, the only decision of the night, and then submission by guillotine in the third.
It was against Eric Kelly, right? Was it the... Yes,
the last one, the main event was
I used to watch
Eric
him.
Kelly.
He's a really great fighter, but we got an L there.
So yeah, from all of those, from everything you just heard, we're gonna focus in on two fights that we think you guys should check out in case you haven't already. We've got Sagid Arleniliev versus Michal Alfad, and this has got to me be the most unrelenting attack that I've seen in some time. Like, we are talking a pickup, like, power. Well, first he stuns him, gets some kind of rock, grabs him, and then throws him down like a power bomb.
Yeah.
And then tries to punch him out. He scrambles, and then he slams him again, they get to their feet quickly, he slams him again, goes for the arm bar, doesn't quite cinch it in, guy goes on his knees, the victim in this assault, trying to breathe, and then Sagid grabs him from behind, from his back, belly to back, suplex him over, and then hammer fists him for the win. It's all over in 32 seconds. 32 seconds.
And
it's
there's
not
so
like
many strikes thrown in those 32 seconds.
Yeah, and it's not like he's a bad fighter. The
All
guy
by
he's
one person.
fighting, it's just a very impressive beatdown. Like, the other guy didn't get a chance to get his feet underneath him, really.
Yeah, no.
Holy Christ!
Oh,
well,
was insane.
all of that happened in less time than it usually takes for guys to feel each other out.
To get an actual first punch or jab. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh my god, man, that was wild. Yeah, if you haven't already checked it out, check it out. Sagid Arleniliev versus Michal Alfad.
I might check it out a few more times today. Like, it's nice and short. So.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And then another nice and short fight from 1FC 38. We have Gehe Estacao versus Saiful Marikan, and this has been a fight I've seen passed around a little bit on social media, so if you've seen a soccer kick from a guy in red shorts in the last week, you may have seen this fight without realizing what you're watching.
Like, running in soccer kick.
Oh my god, man. Straight to the temple, like, brutal
Going
fashion.
for the goal.
Yeah, holy shit. Yeah, but he lands a really good, what was it, a hook, I think? And then it kind of sends him to the ground. Yeah, cross. Sends him a little bit wobbly. He kind of loses his balance, goes down to turtle, not so much turtle up, but he's just trying to get his balance, and then he soccer kicks him in the head.
Yeah,
holy
right to the
Christ.
side of the head.
Yeah.
It's perfect, and he just walks away. It's perfect. It's
Walk
away
off.
KO.
Yeah. So yeah, 1FC. If you didn't already know, tune in. Brandon Vera tunes in. Be like Brandon Vera.
Yeah.
In case you're wondering how you can tune in, you can search MMA Buzz Radio on YouTube, MMA Buzz on Twitter, MMA Buzz on Facebook. We post all of our podcasts on YouTube for now, but we're looking to get into Stitcher and other easier ways for you to find us on podcasts apps. This just takes time.
I'm actually thinking about doing a WordPress where I'm going to comprise like all the events that we have done.
Yeah.
Like I've been leaving these sheets with me, and I'm going to just the overview later on. Maybe you guys can see like what the actual event's about. Mm-hmm. And then with the video.
Yep. So once that project comes to fruition, we'll be sharing the links with you. And like I say, we're always looking to get your feedback. So, without further ado, we are going to move on to our first segment. The half-cut uppercut. So, a half-cut uppercut is our dark horse of the weekend, and we are going to combine all of the events to discuss who we think are the person who came out of nowhere and impressed us for all of these events. So, Nick, why don't you go first?
Well, up until I watched some of that 1FC, I had a different half-cut uppercut. But after we watched that Sagid Arslanaliev like 32 seconds of insanity, I gotta give it to that guy. He just absolutely destroyed this weekend.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know anything about his opponent, Michel Alfad, but...
Me either, but just...
just an onslaught.
Like, watch it if you haven't watched it. It's... I know we already said that.
It's like watching a fight on fast forward. Yeah, I mean, that was super impressive, and I agree. That is definitely somebody who came out of nowhere to impress, seeing as how we're still getting familiar with the 1FC roster. Personally, my half-cut uppercut is going to Brian Barberina, just to the fact that he was so rode off, like no one saw him winning. He's just another number for Sage Northcutt, just another face for him to beat. And he came out and he made the most of his time by... making fun of Sage Northcutt for, the reasons everybody might hate him already. So
he was really yelling in the microphone too.
I was gonna say Barberina as well up until I watched some of those one fights.
Man, one is so good. But the thing is all these fighters are half cut uppercuts for us because we're still, familiarizing ourselves with the stars. And I mean, some of these guys might be future stars in 1FC, and we might just be talking about this fight in the future thing. You remember that one? Well, that's nothing compared to his 15-second onslaught. What do you got, Grev? What's your half-cut uppercut?
I got Tony Martin. It was the first fight on UFC Fox 18. He was taking on Felipe Oliveira, and he was getting hurt really bad with right leg kicks.
Yes.
And his leg was swelling. He looked like he was about out, but he came back for a rear naked choke in the third round. But before that, in the second, he showed his true grit, and he started feeling in his range and getting the shots in. I'm pretty sure he might be a slow starter too. That could lead up to what happened, but he really impressed me. And so did Alex Caceres. His kicks were insane. He did a 360, I forget, hook kick, and it actually hurt Maciel Fulham. And that was he went up to featherweight for that fight instead of being at bantamweight. So kind of looking forward to see what he does at featherweight now.
Yeah, no, all good picks, and that's the best part about all the amount of fighting that's happening right now through all the various leagues and promotions. Is just there's always something to watch the next day. It's pretty rare that someone doesn't come out of the woodwork to impress. That's why we have these features for you to look into, these people you may or may not have seen, whether it be live on Fox for free or live for free on Spike.
I'm pretty sure there was a legacy card on Friday too. I have yet to check out, but
yes, well, that's a perfect breeding ground for half-cut uppercuts. Is that Legacy Fighting Championship that is full of potential and future stars. So you know what? I think that's a great list. Let's move on to our second segment. The full bladder splatter. Who pissed the bed the worst this weekend? Nick, what do you got?
Ryan Bader. I think, obviously, he just got destroyed by Anthony Johnson, who's got to be my favorite fighter now and has been for a while.
Over a minute.
You guys obviously saw that coming.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I saw it coming.
But yeah, Ryan Bader. I mean, tried for the takedown. Wasn't having it. tried to get that arm control to get a Kimura, wasn't having it, just couldn't hold on.
Just a weird spot to try a Kimura too.
Yeah,
we
it really was
during the fight. It's like,
but he was just trying for anything to keep Johnson off of him at that point, because I mean, once Johnson was in full mount, there was nothing he could do.
Yeah, the thing about that is like that was actually something that Wheeler was talking to on Bellator, is that when people are pulling guard now, they're grabbing at that wrist for wrist control to threaten the Kimura, so that people are thinking defense instead of offense when they're in the guard. And you know what? It worked for a little bit.
Yeah, which is, I mean, it's a smart idea. It just
ultimately it backfired pretty horribly. Because then you give up your back.
Yeah, you got to do something with it, or you're kind of screwed. So,
Trevor, who do you have for the full bladder splatter from the last weekend of action?
For the full bladder splatter, I actually had Bader also, which I didn't know Nick had, but thinking back, I'm like, shit, he was probably going to pick that. But just off the top of my head, Jake Ellenberger. He took on Tarek Safedin, who the last Strikeforce welterweight champion. He had him hurt really bad in the first with a right cross, looping cross. And he just didn't move in to attack. The thing is, Jake Ellenberger seems like he's kind of on a dwindle. I don't know if it's like he's just not quite there mentally, or is he just losing his rhythm. He went back to Duke Rufus, who he used to train with, but it still just didn't click. I think it wouldn't be surprising if he actually got cut, because he's been on a... Other than his Koscheck win recently, well, last year, other than that, he hasn't been looking too well. So I gotta pick him.
Brother.
that desperado mode just didn't kick in.
Desperado mode, Joe Rogan would say.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Like last night? Oh,
yeah. Speaking of training, I didn't know Tarek Safedin was training in Montreal.
Yeah, he trains out of TriStar.
I did not know
at
that
the dorm.
last night.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Imagine being at that dorm, like that's like a house full of people that could just murder anybody on the street with their bare hands.
Yeah,
and people don't realize that if they look at them, probably. Like, you know.
Yeah, I mean he's pretty you know, he's cut, but he's just very you know, he's just fit. He doesn't look like he's like a bodybuilder or anything. So my full bladder splatter, I actually have a fighter and a referee, so I couldn't go without mentioning it.
I can see where
but my
that's
full
going.
bladder splatter fighter is Chris Honeycutt, totally expected to win moving into that fight. Paul Bradley, a wrestler going in there to likely take the loss. 23-6, Paul Bradley. I mean, obviously no slunt, but Honeycutt, you know, going in undefeated. He was expected to win in their first fight. Of course, it went to a no contest from the Clash of Heads, and it didn't get any better for Chris Honeycutt. Somebody was supposed to win, and he loses in dramatic fashion. That's my full bladder splatter from the weekend for a fighter. Choice. But I would be remiss if I did not mention Gasper Oliver, the referee that was reffing the UFC on Fox 18. The Johnson versus Bader fight. He was reffing a match in the prelims between Damon Jackson and Levan Makashvili, and he didn't give any warnings, yet took away points to someone who was winning for an eye poke
at the end of the fight. And yeah, he didn't give a warning, which I think, you know, there's sometimes where you'll see 2 eye pokes and they don't take away a point, and you think, well, they must have got a warning out back, so and surely these guys got a warning out back, but even still, taking a point away without giving which is pretty much the common courtesy right now in fights. If you get 1 eye poke, you pretty much can cheat once. You know, you can poke once, you're gonna get a warning, but nope, this guy's straight to the point. Sometimes I'm for that. This time I'm not for it.
It wasn't so much that he was straight to the point for the eye poke. He combined an eye poke and what he called an illegal knee.
Yes, that's true.
I forgot. Wasn't technically an illegal knee.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. If you look up the rules, well, it really depends, because they're in New Jersey, so their athletic commission might say it's illegal to hit somebody when they have their feet and their hand, but according to Nevada State Athletic Commission, it's not illegal to knee a downed opponent because somebody who is on their feet and a hand down, because a downed opponent is classified as somebody with 2 knees and a hand down. And this fighter had 2 feet and a hand down, landed the knee, he didn't get warned, and then the eye poke. They combine the two, take away the point. Ultimately, it leads to a draw. No good for either man, especially when the guy looks so good moving into that. So, yeah, I mean, looking back, pretty rough to take away a point. Really shitty for him. But let's look forward, shall we? To the next group of cards. Of course, not much going on outside of UFC, the powerhouse, the Titan. Fights every weekend moving forward for UFC for a couple of months. And we are looking at UFC Fight Night, formerly UFC 194. Hendricks versus Thompson. Formerly, 196, yeah. Formerly, Cain Velasquez against Verdum. Of course, Cain Velasquez hurts his back, has to go for back surgery. It's announced.
What a surprise!
Yeah, what a surprise. Fighting Duke Rufus. He injures his back, has to go to back surgery. UFC announces that Stipe Miocic is the replacement for Cain Velasquez, coming in with 2 weeks' notice. 1 day passes, and then Verdum announces that he's going to pull out of the fight as well because he has a bad back problem. And there's a little bit of drama in that whole situation because, Stipe was announced, and one part of Verdum's announcement was that if it was Cain fighting, he would have fought. And in this instance, we have a champion choosing who he's going to fight. He's choosing not to fight Stipe on 2 weeks' notice. And granted, he is 38 years old, and he released something that he agreed with. He came to the conclusion with his team that he hasn't fought for all this time to take a chance on a 2 week notice fight.
Yeah, that, and you never know what the bosses are saying to him too. You just never know. It could have been other people mentioning, don't take this. Maybe they're going to do this at UFC 200, possibly. Hey,
yeah, that could happen. I mean, it really sucks for Stipe. Like we alluded to earlier, Stipe is not going to get a chance to fight for the title right away. Really setting up that Rothwell fight. So, that could be the contendership fight.
It seems like the perfect fight, honestly.
I think so.
I don't know how they could not put that fight. Whoever wins it gets a title shot.
Exactly.
Boom.
Yeah, it's cut and dry.
And these guys are on win streaks.
Mm-hmm. Nick?
Yeah, I'd like to see that fight. I was always more excited about the Hendricks and Thompson fight anyway. So.
Yeah, okay, so we are of various schools of support here. I think we're all behind Thompson in this fight.
Yes.
I think we were all Hendricks fans until the second Lawler fight where he ducked his head between his knees the entire time, which was supposedly his game plan. I don't know what the game plan is, when you just want to bore everyone to the victory.
He might have ate too much deer meat and just wanted to take a nap.
Yeah, so, Hendricks has really lost a lot of cachet with us here in the last couple of years, and while he was losing cachet, Thompson has been gaining cachet. This guy, impressive knockouts all the way through his career, for his UFC career. Karate practitioner, if you haven't heard of him. I feel like he's sort of flying under the radar. Hendricks definitely the heavy favorite coming into this fight. I will be putting my money on Thompson because I think Thompson's looking for another highlight reel KO. Grav, anything to talk about on in regards to Thompson Hendricks?
Yeah, I have a feeling. I can't take this out of my head. I feel like he's going to have the kicks to the body of Hendricks is going to wear him down. Hendricks has shown that he has a really bad time cutting weight. And with the IV ban and everything, it's probably even that much harder. I believe with his body kicks, and he has good takedown defense too, Wonder Boy, so that's going to tire down Hendricks at the same time. And I believe once it hits about the fourth round, we're going to see a stoppage from TKO.
Yeah, I can see that happening for sure.
I can't get that out of my head. Like, literally every other thing. Other than, Hendricks sitting in, putting him against cage, underneath his legs,
I hope
at the
that
floor,
doesn't happen.
right?
I hope that doesn't happen.
No, yeah, anybody who's an MMA fan plus UFC doesn't want that to happen.
No.
That's for sure.
I'm sure he's been spoken to about that the same way Silva was spoken to after that really lackluster defense several years ago in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
I agree with Rodney here, but Stephen Thompson being just way under the radar. I mean,
totally is.
He's insane to watch. You never know what he's gonna do.
Yeah. If you're sleeping on him, check him out on UFC Fight Pass. They're not paying us to say this, but check it out. Get UFC Fight Pass. Watch it. I mean, looking down the rest of the card, it seems like we've got a showcase fight for Roy Nelson against Jared Rushold.
Jared Roshold, oh man.
Snoozer. That's what I'm saying. I think they're going to set up Roy Nelson for another KO so he can make another title run. I think this is a gimme for him. Got Josh Berkman against KJ Noons. I'm really excited about that. Got Ovin St. Preux
and Rafael Cavalcante.
That's got
to be a violent fight that will most likely end in the first.
Yeah.
The thing with Rafael, he's a very forward fighter. And Ovin St. Preux has been showing with his wins over... let's see, who was it? The maestro, the guy that worked at Starbucks, Patrick Cummings.
Oh yes.
Yeah, KO'd him on the way in. Same with Shogun, and I see the same thing happening in that fight.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is actually a pretty heavy card as well with Derek Lewis against Damian Grabowski. Of course, Derek Lewis coming off that loss, but a very heavy-handed man. We got Joseph Benavidez versus Mac Makowski.
KJ Noons back at it. Looking forward to seeing what he's up to. His boxing is just beautiful to watch.
Yeah.
And against Berkman, hopefully, if Berkman loses, I can see him getting cut.
Yeah, well, I don't know, because he had a very, sympathetic loss, remember? He got kind of robbed. So, I don't know. I think they took him back for a reason.
Time.
Yeah, no, but Cote's looked really good lately, too, right? So if Cote was coming off losses, maybe that would have done something.
Fellow Canadian there.
Yeah, we got Artem Lobov coming back after his lackluster showing at the tough finale against that wrestler who essentially, laid on him the entire time. And then, tried to go for those. Him. Yeah, so it's kind of funny we're seeing Artem Lobov back, and before that Ryan White guy, so probably no surprise. Anyways, that's UFC Fight Night 82, Hendricks versus Thompson. Been downgraded from a pay-per-view event to be live for free on Fox with the loss of the main event the night before the Super Bowl, so, I don't think the UFC is going to see as much viewership as they anticipated, unfortunately for them, and unfortunately for us. However, the rest of the card, not looking too bad. Should be fun to tune in for. Just definitely not a numbered pay-per-view. No strength for that.
It's true, yeah. It's definitely like a fight night.
So anything you guys want to talk about about the last couple of events before we wrap it up here? Anything stand out that we may have forgotten to mention? I mean, one thing we didn't mention is the whole debacle with Kenny Florian. Oh,
yeah, with the plagiarism, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially for somebody that's took his master's and got it drilled in his head about plagiarism.
Yeah, I don't think this ends well for him. Yeah, no. I don't think this ends well for him. I think this is probably the end of Kenny Florian as far as
it's not good, especially at that high level.
Yeah, it's a major faux pas. You don't steal someone else's work when you're live on Fox for free.
Yeah. One thing I gotta say is what a great way to start the year, honestly, for MMA.
Yeah, this is the first time Grab has been able to discuss anything in 2016. It's his first podcast with us. Nick and I have been holding down the fort. Trevor's been busy with work and everything. So, yeah, I mean, we haven't been able to talk about 2016 as a whole. We've already got candidates for Fight of the Year, Knockout of the Year. No one's been sleeping. Everyone's really making a name and really making a push. There's only been a few real crappy fights that come to mind, and the rest have all just been, people really trying. It's impressive to see.
Really going for it, and what's awesome is it just hasn't just been UFC.
Yeah, no.
So many cards lately, just other organizations, and they're really... Sometimes you watch a card and you're like, oh, some people will watch it, like the casual fan, oh, this isn't UFC, I don't want to watch it. But honestly, a lot of the non-UFC events have been equally, if not better.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They definitely have, and I think... Hopefully, we're going to keep seeing more of that, especially with the Reebok deal, where people are not going to want to go take that UFC contract when it comes to them.
When you say that, when I was watching Bellator, one thing beyond being live for free on Spike, they did mention Ben Henderson's name nonstop.
No way.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a sign.
Yeah, they were talking about how he matches up against Ben Henderson, new free agent, and all this stuff. So, UFC's obviously got the first right of refusal. So they can match whatever they do Bellator might offer him.
Overeem's
presumably
actually a free agent right now.
Yeah, lots of free agents. Same with Matt Mitrione. If these guys decide to test the waters in Bellator, we are all of a sudden seeing the WWF WCW situation going on from pro wrestling back in the 90s, where WCW just snatched up all of the WWF fighters, and you just saw a shift of viewership. And then of course WCW brought in what was that hardcore fighting one? ECW.
ECW, yeah.
And there was just like, they had Raven and all these people, like, you know, everybody who tuned into the lower level ECW was starting to tune into WCW, which has bolstered their numbers even more. So, you know, I think we're going to see a lot of these quote unquote smaller promotions coming out of the woodwork and really capturing the American and Canadian scene. You know, like 1FC is huge in China right now, well, not just China, but
just East Asia in general.
Exactly, right? So they're getting UFC numbers there. They're just not getting UFC numbers here. And I think it's just a matter of time before, you know, through highlight reel knockouts that we're gonna, you know, see that permeation through our conscious here.
And it's great, like, with people going to other promotions, everybody's just gonna work harder to get numbers, and it's just gonna make better fights, better events, bigger fights made, and it all wraps around like that, just like when Pride and UFC were head to head.
Oh, yeah.
Nick,
so
you look like you're biting at the
more
bit.
competition. No, all I was gonna say was just the last thing I mentioned really was Reebok, and I just wanted to talk about Robbie Lawler and Luke Rockhold calling themselves the Three Stripe Army and repping Adidas.
Yeah, man. Well, that's the thing, is that they can have their sponsors outside of Reebok. They just can't wear them within
as it's not fight week.
Yeah, exactly.
And who is it? I think it was.
And I just think it's hilarious that they just go like right to Adidas and we're the Three Stripe Army.
Well, they were sponsored by Adidas before that.
They were, but they're making it like a big presence out of it now.
Yeah,
outside of fight time. So.
Yeah,
Anderson
for
Silva
sure.
Or somebody, they're like, oh, look at these nice Nikes I'm in. Something around those lines.
Well, Mitrione had to take his Nikes off. They said dress up, so he wore like a nice shirt and he put some Air Jordans on, and according to him, a quote from him, "Man, where I'm from, dressing up is Air Jordans. I didn't think I was breaking the rules. Are they checking all these dress shoes to see if they're Nike dress shoes? I don't think they are." So, you know, he's got a point. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, we can shit on the Reebok deal, but it's here. So,
it's here.
We're going to see the landscape shift.
You were sponsored by Adidas, you were sponsored by Nike, whatever. It was a sponsor. It was there on your banner when you could have a banner.
Yeah.
You weren't shouting out to the world outside of the octagon, really, and now they're making a point to do it.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be fun to see how 2016 goes ahead. We've got all kinds of fight cards. You know, if you ever take a look at what's coming up on Bellator, we got Shamrock Gracie, Dada 5000 versus some guy named... What's his name? Kimbo Slice? Yeah, I kind of forgot about him.
Freak show!
Yeah, there's lots to look forward to.
They're actually leaving the Decagon and going outdoors to a backyard for that one?
Yeah, the Decagon. I forgot about that. Yeah. So before we wrap up, let's just check in on our beers. I gotta say, this Pump House IPA has been going down quite smooth, 6.5%. If you are in New Brunswick or surrounding provinces, check out Pump House. They're the same people that are giving $1 for every SPCA IPA purchase to the SPCA. Today, I bought an SPCA IPA for the event last night. I didn't buy one for the podcast today. I wanted to try something new. But yeah, Pump House. Shout out to pumphousebrewery.ca.
Right here, I got a Feels Good Picaroons.
Oh, yes. Grab has switched to a second beer.
Second beer right now, yep. And it's fantastic, based out of Fredericton also. And I live really close to the spot where you can basically get the beer, so it's really nice.
Yeah, they're actually opening a brewery down the street from me, right probably 1 block or 2 blocks away from me, so it's going to be a real drunk 2016 once they open.
Yeah.
We'll never need to leave Union Street.
We'll never need to leave Devon again.
We're actually going for... New Brunswick's actually starting to do something that's like in Europe. You can actually go to a brewery, get your drink, and have your food. This is something that's been around for years, but just not around here. So it's going to be an actual, like, really awesome for Fredericton, New Brunswick.
Grimross is already doing that uptown. We got to get some Grimross beers here. I'll pick up a growler sometime and bring some Grimross in.
Yeah, they're kind of out of the way.
Yeah, well, they're right by my work, so...
Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
How's that maybe going down? Speaking of Fredericton breweries.
Yeah, the Maybes is good. Workhorse IPA. I like them. 7% alcohol. Not super, super strong on the hops, but enough for me, so...
Yeah. Workhorse.
I like it.
Getting the work done.
Yeah. Putting those horses in ya.
Yeah. So yeah, that's MMA Buzz episode 6. We want to hear from you. Let us know how we're doing. Follow us on Twitter. That's MMA Buzz Radio on Twitter. MMA Buzz on YouTube. MMA Buzz Radio on Facebook. You can reach out to us. I'm Rodney Mann on Instagram.
I'm Trevor Lutz, Grever on Instagram.
I am NHBrown44 on Instagram and Twitter.
Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for listening. Hey, Brendan, if you're listening to this, it means a lot. Cheers, boys.
MMA Buzz. Brought to you by The Beach Radio.